Hello, welcome to Leisrealtalk. Many people believe in past lives and reincarnation, though not everyone agrees. But in recent years, with the internet connecting people across time, distance, and space, netizens began noticing some celebrities look strikingly similar to historical figures. Some of these doppelgangers even cross cultures. Stephon Marbury, two-time NBA All-Star player, who also played and coached in China, once shared a photo comparing himself with Chinese thinker and politician Liang Qicao from a century ago. The resemblance was uncanny. Marbury joked, "That's my brother from another world." And the coincidences don't end there. The husband of Hollywood actress Anne Hathaway looks eerily like William Shakespeare. Even more bizarre, Shakespeare's wife was also named Anne Hathaway. Is that a love story traveling through time? There are plenty of other examples. Nicolas Cage looks identical to a man in an old Civil War photograph. German soccer star Mesut Özil resembles Enzo Ferrari, founders of the Ferrari company, and the two were born and died only 2 months apart. Taiwan actress Barbie Hsu looks remarkably like Wu Lili, once called the most beautiful woman in Yan'an in Communist China. 1 year after Wu's death, Barbie Hsu was born in Taiwan. It makes people wonder, could these really be past lives? But today's story is a special one because the coincidences are overwhelming. It's about Teresa Teng, the queen of Asian pop and the most influential and beloved Asian singer of all time. Teresa Teng was born into an ordinary military family in Taiwan. She was the only daughter among 5 children. From a young age, she loved singing, often performing in front of her family to earn their applause. Her musical talent was obvious early on, and she was eager to perform anywhere she could. Teresa Teng loved beautiful things. She was traditional and very feminine. She enjoyed doing domestic things like making dumplings. She even once said, "A woman must know how to make dumplings if she wants to find a husband." Yet Teresa never married. Despite her sweet voice and quintessential renditions of love songs, her love life was full of heartbreaks. Since her teenager years, she had been close friends with Zhu Jian, the manager of a nightclub in Singapore. They had known each other for years, and though they lived in different places, whenever they met, they had so much to say to each other. Some speculated they were lovers. Then tragedy struck. In June 1972, when Teresa was 19, she was waiting in Hong Kong for Zhu Jian to arrive, but his plane crashed over Vietnam, killing all 81 people on board. Teresa was devastated. She wept for days, unable to perform for an entire week. But this was not the first time Teresa had suffered a crushing loss. When she held concerts in Kuala Lumpur, she noticed that night after night, the first 3 rows of seats were filled with the same faces. It turned out a local paper tycoon, Lin Zhengfa, had bought out front seats throughout the tour for his family and friends. Lin was 5 years older, an amateur horseman and a devoted fan. Teresa herself loved horseback riding, and soon the two fell in love. Within a few years, marriage was on the horizon. Teresa once said, "If I get married, it will be Lin Zhengfa and no one else." But just as Teresa was preparing to expand her career to Japan, with Lin's full support, the unexpected struck. In 1978, Lin died suddenly of a heart attack. Teresa was performing in Taiwan at the time and couldn't leave. By the time she finished her engagement, all that awaited her was his tombstone. That year, she was 25. Heartbroken, she poured her sorrow into song, and every time she sang "Goodbye, My Love," she was always teary-eyed. Teresa pushed forward with her career. Around that time, a Japanese record company invited her to perform in Japan. a chance that would change her path, but also embuoy her in controversy. She needed to stop in Taiwan to take care of an urgent matter before flying to Japan. But according to transit rules at the time, once her Taiwanese passport stamped her back in, she could not leave again the same day. That's when Teresa remembered. Years earlier in Indonesia, the head of the immigration had presented her with a special gift, an Indonesian passport. Unfortunately, a journalist at the airport spotted her boarding with an Indonesian passport and assumed she had renounced her nationality. The next day, newspapers splashed the headline, "Teresa Teng holds Indonesian passport. Has she changed citizenship?" Indonesia's embassy in Tokyo, unaware of the gift, quickly denied her supposed status. Japan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs reacted swiftly, confirming she had entered with an Indonesian passport. Within hours, police came to her hotel. She was detained for 7 days before a telegram finally arrived from Jakarta, confirming the passport had indeed been a gift. She was then released. Her reputation took a hit. Her career momentum was slowed, and she caught a glimpse of the ugly side of gossip and betrayal. Teresa chose to take a break, flying to America to quietly rebuild herself. In the United States, she met Jackie Chan, who was filming in Los Angeles. The two started dating, but the romance was short-lived. Jackie Chan described her as elegant and beautiful, but not someone who understood men. Teresa, on the other hand, summed it up in 3 words: "I hated it." Later, she nearly married again, this time to Guo Kongchen, the oldest son of Malaysia's richest man, Robert Guo. They were engaged and the wedding day was set. However, Guo's grandma demanded that the future granddaughter-in-law retire from show business, fully disclose her family background, and cut off contact with all her male friends. To Teresa, this was an insult. She ended the relationship and walked away. It was until age 37 when, at a dinner in Paris, she met Paul, a French photographer 15 years her junior. Paul didn't know Teresa was a superstar in Asia. He had little money and his work was unstable, but Teresa didn't care. He became her personal photographer. From the first photo he took of her, Paul fell deeply in love with this strong and sweet woman. Their romance was simple and lighthearted, like 2 kids in love, scribbling sweet little notes to each other and living in pure joy. But fate was cruel. On the afternoon of May 8, 1995, while Paul stepped away to get food, Teresa's asthma suddenly flared up in her hotel in Chiang Mai, Thailand. She pounded on the door, calling for help. By the time staff opened the door, she had collapsed on the floor. Traffic was heavy during rush hour as the ambulance sped her to the hospital, but it was too late. Teresa Teng died at just 42 years old, 5 years after meeting Paul. Teresa spent her final years in Chiang Mai, Thailand, a place she adored. 4 years after her passing, in that very country, a little girl named Lang Lam was born. From the age of 3, she loved to sing. By 5, she dreamed of becoming a singer. At 7, she happened to hear one of Teresa Teng's cassette tapes that her parents had bought back from Hong Kong. From that moment, she was entranced. Strangely enough, she was able to sing a song after listening to it just 2 to 3 times, even though she didn't understand a word of Chinese. Within 3 months, she had mastered all 25 songs on the tape. Her parents, who also didn't know a word of Chinese, were amazed. She sounds so much like the original. Is she really singing this? But the little girl insisted, "These are my songs." At first, her family didn't think much of it, but word spread, and soon her voice caused a stir locally. People said she sounded exactly like Teresa Teng. Most chalk it up to a talent for imitation, until years later, when Langelam turned 16 and competed in a Chinese singing contest. When she performed Teresa Teng's 1,000 Words, the entire audience was stunned. Not only her voice, but her appearance, her gestures, her very aura, it all felt hauntingly familiar, as if Teresa Teng herself had stepped onto the stage once more. At that moment, everyone watching had the same thought. Teresa Teng had returned. Over the years, countless people had imitated Teresa, covering her songs in tribute. But Langelam's singing was different. It ignited a wave of nostalgia so powerful that people wondered if she was Teresa reborn. Langelam herself never felt she was imitating. For her, singing Teresa's songs came effortlessly, almost naturally, as if the voice wasn't even her own. For a TV program, Langelam traveled with the crew to Chiang Mai, to the very hotel where Teresa had spent her final days. The room had been preserved exactly as it was. Without hesitation, she walked straight to the window, drew open the curtains, and gazed outside. Then she pointed to a sofa and quietly said, "This is where I like to sit and read." Overcome by emotion, tears streamed down her face. She whispered, "It's been 20 years. I never thought I'd come back. This place feels like home. I've missed it so much." Her words startled everyone. They didn't sound like the comments of a young girl visiting for the first time, but like those of someone returning to a place once deeply familiar. So people began to wonder, is Langelam really was Teresa reborn? Was it her deep attachment to Thailand that drew her soul back there? Despite her fame in mainland China, Teresa Teng had never performed there. After the 1989 student pro-democracy movement resulted in the Tiananmen Square massacre, she declared, "Unless the student movement is redressed, I will not go to the mainland." Although she never set foot there, her voice had crossed every street and alley on that land. Teresa's sweet voice and tender feelings warmed the hearts of an entire nation that had been subjected to harsh revolutionary songs for decades. People in the mainland had a saying back then, "We listen to the old Teng during the day and the little Teng at night." Old Teng was paramount leader Deng Xiaoping, and little Teng was Teresa Teng. It was their way of expressing how much they adored her. Maybe that's why, when Langelam's familiar voice rang out years later, people were overcome with emotion and longing. Media across Asia marveled at how her singing, her expression, her very aura could rival Teresa herself. No ordinary imitators could achieve that, and yet, despite holding concerts and gaining attention, Langelam never reached the same legendary heights that Teresa did, nor did she dominate the stage for decades. Perhaps if she truly is Teresa reborn, it's her soul's choice to return in Thailand, not to chase fame again, but to live a quieter, more peaceful life. After one dazzling, tumultuous lifetime, maybe what she wanted most in the next was simply to be ordinary, happy, and at peace. Do you think Langelam is Teresa Teng reborn? Let me know what you think by leaving me comments. Alright, that's all for today. If you enjoy this program, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. See you next time.